Now we enter a different part of the history, but it's still important nonetheless for the Arcane Ascension part. On April 3rd, HP, the first victor of Arcane Ascension, decided that he would make a funny joke of the level. So, he remixed Arcane Ascension, changed the colors to just white and black, and then actually buffed the level, getting rid of the dash drop at the very end to make it so you had to instead do a 1-speed straight fly at the very end of the level. And he also buffed the very end of the straight fly. Before, you hit a 0-point-time speed portal, and you kind of just float around in it. It's kind of hard to die there. But now, he buffed it to also be a straight fly, which proved to now make the straight fly, which was already hard at the time, even harder. Now, HP was never actually sure if he was going to try to verify the level, since verifying it seemed like a pretty pointless thing to do, given just how, it's a joke level. But on April 5th, he managed to get a 98% death, almost fluking the level from 58, and would have beaten it in just under 50 attempts. So, he was pretty much locked in, and he was just going to try to beat the level, regardless of the fact that it was a pretty stupid level to begin with. And so, the next day, he beat Arcane Declension. Yay! I did it! Let's go! I beat Crescendo! Soon after this, APX Wildcat would make a new level in the series. This level was called Arcane Destiny. Arcane Destiny was a really cool level to the series, and was overall different from the gray or dark blue-esque of all of them. This one was much brighter, and this level took heavy inspiration from Tidal Wave. Now, at the time, this was before Tidal Wave became more of like a popular level. Now, exact archives on this is a bit wonky, since he never posted any of his progress. But we know that sometime between April 8th and April 10th, APX Wildcat got a terrible death of 99%. Because you see, at the very end of the level, there's this part that you have to hold at. Now in this case, he actually did make it, but forgot to stop holding. So, thus, when he hit the pad, he jumped right into the block. Very unfortunate, but he knew that he could beat the level soon. Now somewhere in between April 12th to April 20th, he actually verified the level. Again, these are all rough estimates, and there was no actual emails or any recorded logs about it, so this is the best we're gonna have to work with. And so, just like with Arcane Ascension, the race to become the first victor was in play. There were two people trying to beat this level first. WM476123, who was the second victor of Arcane Ascension, and HP, who was the first victor of Arcane Ascension. Instead of there being the normal triple spike, there's instead a quad spike. And that's really about it. On the same day that he posted it though, HP would beat the level in 113 attempts. But then, on October 19th, Westnoth would then, once again, post his own Arcane Ascension remake. This level was called Archaebacterium Astrophotography. This level was just like his last Arcane Ascension remake, but instead, he decided to buff the first jump. And that's really it. And then, once again, Shay Plays would verify this level on November 28th, 2023, also managing to get it on video. After this though, things would start to go quite quiet for the Arcane remakes. But then, Squeege would once again make another Arcane Ascension remake, but this was no Arcane Ascension remake like the others. This one was above and beyond what we've seen before. Not only was the regular Arcane Ascension, but it was buffed, and it had an extension that was really hard. This level was the final boss of Arcane Ascension remakes. This level is Arcane Extension. Now, the level had been up for a while, but no one actually had the skill to try to beat something like this. Squeege kept telling HP to verify the level, but even HP was very hesitant to try to verify the level. At the time, HP was working on other projects while still playing Arcane Extension from time to time. But then, he would get a run that would change all of that. On November 3rd, he would manage to get past the 0.5 speed strafefly at the end of Arcane Ascension, and would manage to get all the way into the 3x speed strafefly. This was a huge boost of motivation for him, and so after that, he would lock in and start trying to grind the level, and this is how it went. And within the span of 3 days, he already got a devastating run of 98%. Showing how quick work he was making in the level, it seemed like he was gonna beat it in the next couple of days. And as far as his progress was going, it seemed like he was. But sadly, that's not what would end up happening. And instead, he would go into a much larger grind that he never could have anticipated. A couple of days after he had gotten his 98% fail, Arcane Extension lost his top 1 status to a level named Demonic Nightmares 3, so now the level was not eligible to be top 1. And so he started to play the level less and less, instead making progress on other levels, and trying to grind the Scratch Demon list. But then, an unknown player named Who Asked then came along and started trying to make progress on Arcane Extension. But the problem was, his progress was extraordinarily fast. And within the coming hours, he was quickly showing that he was going to steal the verification away from HP. So, HP came back and started trying to grind the level the best he can. He knew that maybe, if his consistency came together, that maybe he could beat him in the race. But, sadly, that was just never the case. And so, on the same day that Huaz started non-stop grinding it, he actually verified the level. And with this, HP was devastated. He didn't know what to do. He thought about dropping the level, but he knew that he had to finally finish the beast off. And so, within the coming days, he put his mind to it and started grinding this the hardest he has ever grinded before. This was really hard for him. It seemed like every single time that he would get far in the level, he would just die right before the extension. And he just did this constantly and constantly. More than half of the times that he actually got past the Arcane Ascension part died to this one single straight fly. It was very mentally hard on him. But he still kept pushing. And on November 21st, sadly, he would get yet another 97% death. This was the most demotivated he had felt in a very long time. He kept pushing though, and just a couple hours later, he finally pulled through. And so, now, after 2,988 attempts, he was now finally free from the level. It might not have been top 1, and he might not have been able to have the title as the verifier, but he was glad that he would just never have to play the level ever again. But the story doesn't end here. Despite HP saying that he was never going to play any Arcane Ascension remakes ever again, he verified another Arcane Ascension remake on December 1st, 2023. This level's called Arcane High. Now, this is just Arcane Declension, but with a lot of flashing lights, so I won't be showing any gameplay of it. Now, 11 days later, Shay would verify the original Arcane Ascension remakes that Westnoth player had made. But, not too long after he had verified these levels, HP made an exposing video, exposing how his ship movements seemed to be way too inhuman, and the fact that when compared to full speed footage of a completion, they don't seem to line up, meaning that his completion seems to be like sped up or slowed down in some way that doesn't match up with normal speed, showing that he probably used some sort of speed hack. So this is why his 2 completions aren't accepted on the list. On January 25th, HP would verify yet another Arcane Ascension remake that Squeege made called Verstappen Recollection. Although unlike all the Arcane Ascension remakes before this one was actually a nerf version of Arcane Ascension, which made the straight fly much more doable than in regular Arcane Ascension, so it was way more easier to get more consistent runs on the level. On December 27th, 2023, Squeege, the person who made a lot of Arcane Ascension remakes in the past, decided to make an Arcane Extension remake named Arcane Extension, which was inspired by the name of Arcane Declension. This level would go unverified for quite a while since HP really did not want to rebeat Arcane Extension, and Who Asked was just kind of doing his own thing. But on January 29th, 2024, Who Asked would verify Arcane Extension, being just barely harder than Arcane Extension. The verifier of Demonic Nightmares 3, Voodoo of Flesh, decided that he would make his own Arcane Ascension remake. This level will be called Dark Ascension, but instead, he would make the gameplay extremely much harder than Arcane Ascension, and it would easily place top 1 if it were to actually be verified. And so, 4 days after Arcane Extension was verified, Voodoo of Flesh would verify Dark Ascension, and this level was placed at top 1 almost immediately. But a few days before this, player Epic86 made his own Arcane Ascension remake, but this time it was a very nerfed version of the level, so that way it could fit his skill set. This level is called Anarchium Aviation. And so, now that the level was much easier, so that way more not as skilled players could actually play Arcane Ascension, the level did grow quite a bit of popularity, and only added to Arcane Ascension's growing legacy. But 3 days before this though, Squeege would make an Arcane remake, but instead of it being an Arcane Ascension remake, it was an Arcane Destiny remake, which was once again inspired by Arcane Declension, and how it was the first remake of Arcane Ascension, and so this level was named Arcane Destiny. Now, the only thing different about this level from regular Arcane Destiny is just the one part at the very beginning of the ship that has a block and a spike placed to make it just ever so slightly harder. Other than the deco though, there is nothing different. Nothing would then be going on for the Arcane series for a while, until about February 22nd, 2024, when HP verified a cool redecoration of the full deco version of Arcane Ascension named Crimson Revelation. It was a really cool twist on the original Arcane Ascension, since now everything was red, and so it made for a really cool theme. And so, out of all of the Arcane Ascension remakes that we have covered this far, this is probably the one that has the most effort into actually looking good. But after this, no Arcane Ascension remakes or any Arcane remakes were getting verified, so the whole scene kinda just went quiet for a while. People were still making their Arcane Ascension remakes, but people just didn't have the energy to keep verifying them, and HP was too busy with other stuff to want to keep grinding them out. And so, for the next 2 months, things would just go silent. It wouldn't be until March when a top-level player named Realtor would make his Arcane Ascension remake called Kitty Credentials. Now, this part has some weird buffs in the ball sections that make this level really difficult, but other than that, the rest of the level is pretty easy. But it wouldn't be until April 29th until he would finally decide to grind the level and finish it off. But then, on the same day that he had made Kitty Credentials, he had also made another Arcane Ascension remake named Mucane Molesto, which he verified 3 days after verifying Kitty Credentials. And so, as of today, that is where the story ends. It's crazy to see how far the Arcane series really has came. All starting out from just some middle school boy's crazy level idea that ended up going on to even more levels. which then went on to one level that would end up standing as his magnum opus of all levels. People loved this level, and they started doing their own things with this level. Arcane Ascension has become its own trend in the SGD community, and has truly revolutionized it forever. And, who knows, maybe this is just the beginning. This is the history of the Arcane series. But the story might not just be over.